Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Nice to see you all. Bim, man, bim. You don't want me to sing. You definitely don't want me to sing. Okay, so for those of you who don't know me, but it looks like everybody here must know me, except I don't know you, sir. I'm Janice Alper, and I have the privilege of leading services this week. It seems like I did this a few weeks ago. So here I am again. Please turn off your phones, because you know if a phone rings, I will stop. And as is my custom, we will put on the talit as a community when the service actually begins. This week, we begin a new portion, a new book of the Torah, Shmot, Sefer Shmot, which is known as Exodus, because it's named from the Greeks. But it derives its name from the first least common word in the first verse, as we know, Shmot, and Shmot means names. So today, as I did last time, which was Hanukkah, I'm going to ask you to think about some things as we go through this. I'm in the microphone. What? I'm sorry. I'm speaking as loudly as I can, and I'm in the microphone. This is a poem by Zelda. If you don't know Zelda, she's an Israeli poet, and that's her name. It's a poem that was set to music. It's called Each of Us Has a Name. Each of us has a name given by God and given by our parents. Each of us has a name given by our stature and our smile, and given by what we wear. Each of us has a name given by the mountains and given by our walls. Each of us has a name given by the stars and given by our neighbors. Each of us has a name given by our sins and given by our longing. Each of us has a name given by our enemies and given by our love. Each of us has a name given by our celebrations and given by our work. Each of us has a name given by the seasons and given by our blindness. Each of us has a name given by the sea and given by our death. Let us turn to page 10 to Ma Yafeh Hayom. Please turn to page 170. We will read this responsively. May my life be one link in a chain of goodness as I say the prayers of my ancestors. Help me to recall their devotion and faithfulness, their joy and suffering, which are in every word. Holiness is my heritage. May I be worthy of it.
May our tradition live in me, pass from me to generations I never know, which are the truth that I have, and the good deeds I have done. So may I fulfill my task on earth and receive my blessing.
And when the service ends and the prayers have ceased, help me to bring their spirit into the world in which I live. May I love God above all and my neighbor as myself, and be a living witness to the truth that never changes. What was your child name? Good. Who else? What else? Yentala. We are going to do the Moda Ani, and I bring this up as a child. I said this the last time. Every morning, I lived with my Orthodox grandparents, and my Zeta would get me up, and I'd have to recite Moedi Ani, the old Ashkenazis, and he gave me 5 cents, and I could buy a Hershey bar. Except for Shabbos. It was a fortune. Okay, we're going to do Moda Ani together. It's the bottom of page 170. Moda Ani lefanecha melech chai v'kayam shechazarti bi nishmati b'chemla rabba emunatecha. And our service, we will put on the talit now. Turn, please, to page 171. It's customary to put on the talit as the service begins. So far, it's just been introductory. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu leitaftef batzitzit. Our service begins on page 172 or 72 with Ma Tovu. Thank you. We are small but mighty. It's quality. The daily miracles may be found on page 175. Responsively. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan l'sochri bina l'havchin ben yom uven laila. Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam atir asurim. Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam rokah haaretz al hamayim. Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam malbish arumim. Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hama'avir sheina me'einai u'tenuma me'afapai. Amen. Baruch Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam sha'asani bat chorin. Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam ozer Yisrael bigvura. Together. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher yishanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu l'halosot b'divrei Torah. Okay, Susan, would you come up and read these are the things on page 180, please, in English?
These are the things that are limitless, of which a person enjoys the fruit of the world, while the principle remains in the world to come. They are honoring one's father and mother, engaging in deeds of compassion, arriving early for study, morning and evening, dealing graciously with guests, visiting the sick, providing for the wedding couple, accompanying the dead for burial, being devoted in prayer, and by making peace among people. But the study of Torah encompasses them all.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to sing for our teachers, but before we do, what was your school name? What was your name when you were in school? Pick a school, David. And what was your name? Alejandro, okay. Good. What else? Who else had a school name? Lisa. Elisa. Oh, okay, good. I was only Janice. And sometimes Jan, which I hate. Boy, you've really had a few monikers. Okay. Thank you. Okay, thank you. All right, for our teachers, page 182, let's sing together. Lovely. Okay, please turn to page 188 for Hallelujah. Hallelujah. hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. And now the Chatzi Kaddish, page 194. Please rise if you're able. Al v'yitadash shemei Rabbah b'yama divra dirutei b'yamlich malchusei b'chayechon u'yamechon u'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael ba'agala Lizman Kariv Imru Amen Heshmei Rabba Korach Leolam Olmei Omaya Yitvarach V'yishtabach Ba'ar Romam V'yitnaseh Yitaleh V'yitalal Shemei Degudusha B'rechu Le'ela Min Kol Birchata B'shirata Tushbechata B'nechemata Da'amiran B'yalma V'imeru Please be seated, except Elisa and Stan. I would like you to come up and read, please. The World is Sunlight, on page 196.
The world is sunlight, restoring the soul, rejoicing the heart, bringing light to the eyes, more welcomed than gold, a Torah from heaven.
I have no light to give the morning. My Torah, my special human gift, is words. As I bring my words forth from silence, welcome them, you who redeems the sun from darkness. Baruch atah Adonai, Yotzer HaMorot.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Is there a name in your family that you've passed on to others? A grandchild, a friend, a loved one? Lovely. John? Thank you. Mimi, I saw your hand up. David? I love it. Fine. No, I think this is why I asked this question. This is why I asked the question. We want to know about you guys. Yes. Susan. Well, okay. All right, so now here's the Geschichte. That's a story. The old Yiddish was my first language. I don't know for whom I'm named, but our oldest son, because of circumstances, we called Simcha Chaim. He's not named for anyone because of circumstances, and means joyous life. My second son, Aryeh, Louis, is named for my father, who died while I was pregnant. And I said, no one is ever going to call him Louis like my father, but I'm the only one who does call him Louis. And I had two daughters, one of whom is quite ill right now, and she's named for my bubby, Rivka, Aviva Rivka, and her twin sister, who is deceased, was named for my grandmother Miriam, Sharona Miriam. So that's my story. But I want to share something with you, Elaine, if I might. We are Ashkenazic. Some of our family members have married Sephardic Jews. And one of my cousins had her son and named him Louis after her father-in-law. And my aunt, who was really very verbrenta, very strict, she went to my Zeta, who you already know is quite a character. And she said, what can I do? They're naming him for somebody living. And my Zeta, with the twinkle in his eye, said, that's their way. So be comforted with that, Elaine. Be comforted with it. Good for her. Good for her. Okay. Yes, David, quick. Okay. All right. I love it. I love it. Okay, thank you. Thank you. All right, we come to the Ahava Rabbah, and I'm going to read it in Hebrew because it's my favorite blessing. It's not really a blessing, it's just a little passage, and it reminds me of my mother, and it talks about a gift, the gift of Torah, and I always think that my mother gave me this gift. So I will read the first part in Hebrew. We are on page 198. You just have to keep turning the pages. Ahava rabba ahavtanu Adonai Eloheinu, chemla gadola v'teira chamalta aleinu, ba'avur avotenu v'imotenu, shebatchu v'cha, v'talamdein chukei chayim, who has taught me the laws of life, kein techaknenu u'tashlamdenu, hamerachem rachem aleinu, v'ten belibenu lahavin ulahaskil, to give me something in your heart so that it would be understood and learned. Lishmoa, to listen. Lilmod, to learn. Ulalamed, and to teach. Lishmor v'la'asot ulakayem et kol divrei hatalmud toratecha ba'ahava, so that you will establish the words of Torah with love. That's the Janus interpretation. V'ha erinenu, next verse on page 198. And the Shema may be found on page 200. You can say standing or sitting, whatever you prefer. Please be seated. Chuck, would you come up here and read on page 203, Sing the Song of Men and Women?
Sing the song of men and women, join in understanding and respect, the song of God's miracles, an earth protected and cherished, a gift for our children and the generations to come. The song of land once ravaged by war, now quiet and content, her soldiers home to leave no more. The song of a world redeemed, the song of peace.
I just thought that was very timely. The Micha Mocha may be found on page 204. Bim bida bye, yada bye, bye bim bam, die bye, die bim bim bye, die die, die bim bam, die lie, 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 die lie, die bim bam, yai, lie, 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 die lie, die bim bam, shiracha dasha, sharom Shimecha Atzratayam Adonai Lam Aimaru Adonai Yimloch Leolam Va'ed. Hey, bye bye bim bida bye yada bye bye bim bam yada bye bim bam yada bye bim bam. I da 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 yada da bye bim bam da 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 bye bim bam. David, Uncle David. Baruch atah Adonai God Yisrael. Amidah continues through page 216. You may do it standing or sitting. Read the words on the page or what's in your heart. You know, the Talmud teaches us about the Amidah, that it's the heart of the service. And you have to say it with intention. But if you come and you don't have intention, you just keep doing it because the intention will come. The other thing is, it's not silent. You are supposed to say it so that you can hear it. So when you go to an Orthodox synagogue, there's a buzz, or a traditional synagogue, there's a buzz during the Amidah. So I just wanted to share that with you. I forgot to do it at the beginning. Okay, we are on page 216 for a zippy seam shalom, right? You got a zippy one today? Let's hear the melody. It's the same one we do. Sim shalom, tova uvracha, kein b'chesed berachami leinu, v'al kol Yisrael, v'al kol Yisrael, amecha, keinu v'yoshenu, duranu ke'echad, v'yor panecha, v'yor panecha, v'atamatim, Adonai Eloheinu, sim shalom, tova uracha, chen v'chesed, rachamim v'rachamim aleinu, v'al kol Yisrael, v'al kol Yisrael, amecha. Thank you. Okay, before we begin the Torah service, which is on page 244, and David, I'm going to ask you to come help me take the Torah out, but not yet, not yet. What's the name you're called when you're called up to the Torah? Elisa. Okay. Leah Bass. There you go. Great. Who? I'm Yonina Bat Kamen Levatova. Okay. The Torah service can be found on page 244. Not yet. I'll tell you when. Ein kamocha v'elohim Adonai v'ein kamasecha v'abrachutu v'alamim Dor vador, Adonai melech, Adonai malach, Adonai yimloch leolam va'ed, Adonai os liamo yitain, Adonai os liamam l'asham. Not yet. I'll tell you when. You take it out. It says Ki Mitzion. Thank you for doing this. Chomot Yerushalayim Ki b'chachon Yerushalayim Ki b'chachon batachnu Melech el Ram Banaseh Adon now. Don't go rote. In this scroll is the secret of our people's lives from Sinai till now. Now. Baruch Shenatan Torah, Torah. Baruch Shenatan Torah, Torah. Le'amo Yisrael. Ayidu Shato. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shema. Just undress it. Yeah, we will undress it. We will undress it. Yeah.
Okay.
Do it.
Now.
That's just fine. I think, the fact that you're just doing it is important. No, it's just fine. We are blessed to have Mimi Schechter, who will be reading Torah. And you're reading? Tell us what you're reading.
Chapter 1
Of what?
Exodus.
Exodus. Took into Mike. Yeah.
So to follow on Janice's theme of names, one of the reasons I chose the beginning of this parsha was the names and some of the other famous verses. And when I was bat mitzvah as an adult, the rabbi talked about the Amida, which you mentioned, and saying the names was your calling card. Like, you know, this is our history goes all the way back to the names. So that's why I wanted to do this first part.
Great. How many Aliyot are you going to have?
3.
3. Very good. Okay. So as is our custom, if you're commemorating the yahrzeit of a loved one, please come up.
Help doing that.
Can you swing it around?
There's a way to do it. Here we go. Baruch Hu et Adonai Hamavra.
Baruch atah amara le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamarach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher bachar banu mikol hamim. V'natan lanu et torto. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha-Torah.
Amen. Whoops.
I'll take it.
These are the names of the sons of Israel who came to Egypt with Jacob, each coming with his household: Reuven, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Issachar, Zebulun, Benjamin, Dan, Naphtali, Gad, and Asher. The total number of persons that were of Jacob's issue came to 70. Joseph being already in Egypt. Joseph died, and all his brothers and all that generation. But the Israelites were fertile and prolific. They multiplied and increased very greatly, so that the land was filled with them.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha-Torah.
Amen.
This is the yahrzeit of my mother's mother, Gladys Modell.
Okay, if you're celebrating a simcha. Oh, good, Elaine.
My Hebrew name is Eti Bat Tuvia Ve'Esther. Baruch Hu et Adonai Hamvorach.
Baruch Adonai hambarach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha-Torah.
Amen. A new king arose over Egypt who did not know Joseph. And he said to his people, "Look, the Israelite people are too numerous for us. Let us deal shrewdly with them so that they may not increase. Otherwise, in the event of war, they may join our enemies in fighting against us and rise from the ground." So they set taskmasters over them to oppress them with forced labor, and they built garrison cities for Pharaoh, Pithom and Ramses. But the more they were oppressed, the more they increased and spread out, so that the Egyptians came to dread the Israelites. The Egyptians ruthlessly imposed upon the Israelites the various labors that they made them perform. Ruthlessly, they made life bitter for them with harsh labor at mortar and bricks and with all sorts of tasks in the field.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech olam, asher natan lanu Torah emet, v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai, noten haTorah. I have two things to share. First, last week I wasn't here because Mark and I went to Colorado to visit our daughter, her husband, and our 6-month-old granddaughter that you heard about a lot before she was born. She's doing great, and she's spectacularly gorgeous. If I do say so myself. And the other thing is, our youngest son told us he's engaged.
Mazel tov!
Yeah. That's so nice. Anybody else with a simcha? When you reveal yourself here, you reveal yourself.
David Melech ben Tzvi v'Chana.
Chaim Yehuda ben Joseph Rachel.
U'et Adonai havorach. Baruch Adonai havorach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech olam, asher bochar banu mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai, noten haTorah.
The king of Egypt spoke to the Hebrew midwives. One of them was named Shiphrah and the other Puah, saying, "When you deliver the Hebrew women, look at the birth stool. If it is a boy, kill him. If it is a girl, let her live." The midwives, fearing God, did not do as the king of Egypt had told them. They let the boys live. So the king of Egypt summoned the midwives and said to them, "Why have you done this thing, letting the boys live?" The midwives said to Pharaoh, "Because the Hebrew women are not like the Egyptian women. They are vigorous. Before the midwife can come to them, they have given birth." And God dealt well with the midwives, and the people multiplied and increased greatly. And God established households for the midwives because they feared God. Then Pharaoh charged all his people, saying, "Every boy that is born you shall throw into the Nile, but let every girl live."
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech olam, asher natan lanu Torah emet, v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai, noten haTorah.
Amen.
Well, I had an MRI a week ago Friday, and the main purpose of it was to examine whether I had anything which was causing my tremor, and the doctor thought that perhaps it was indicative of early Parkinson's. So I'm happy to say that when the MRI was read a couple of days ago, there's no mention of any Parkinson's indications at all.
Yes. All right.
I was reminded this morning when I walked in and I got my parking ticket validated, because I forgot last week to have that done, over 30 years ago, my dad took Rabbi Sternfeld out for lunch, and reminded him that every Saturday there needed to be a service, and there wasn't at Beth Israel way back when, because the rabbis were just too busy. And as I was validating my ticket, because I didn't want to do it because it was going to rain, the synagogue was empty. And here I was walking in, remembering my grandmother, because my dad told the rabbi it was really critical for everyone to be able to say the Kaddish to their loved ones. And David and all the other people really were part of the group that got this minyan going so long ago. And just to kind of full circle it, it's my grandmother's yahrzeit today. And so we all get rewarded because the rain's not supposed to come until 1:45 now. So we'll all be able to get home without the rain. And also, I trudged out here like we all did today. And there's no football game until later on this afternoon because there's always football going on in my house this time of year.
Very good. Just a minute, I want to get my prayer book. Larry Krause's name is Aryeh ben Pinchas Valeah. I just was remembering. Aryeh is the same as my son, Louis. Okay. We are moving ahead with with the blessing for healing, which may be found on page, help me, 253. Yes, I have it written down, but of course, God forbid I should read it, right? Okay, so if you're thinking of somebody who needs healing, please come up. And we have 2 microphones.
Paul Schiffer, Kurt Gombatz, and Michelle Green.
Ruth and Elliot Epner, Debbie Simmons, Mark Booth, Kathy Booth, and Eddie Koo.
David Hollub, Barbara Baranque, David Kroll, Sandy Berlin, Sandy and Dan Lynn, Susan Zale, Eric Winston, Ione Davis, Gloria Reynes, Sharon Ritter, Susan and Dwight Marshall, and Joyce Spivak.
David Kroll, Ina Rosenthal Uri.
Yehudit Bat Shirah, Mordechai Pinchas Ben Yehudit, Becky Rodkin, Danielle Garber, Jackie Jacobs.
Mick Treichel and his family, Judah Hartle and his family, Bobby Miller.
Alberto Vaca, Bogdan Maderowitz, George Chu, Harriet, Jane and Amy Helsel, Fred Modell, and all those suffering in our families, friends, minyan, community, country, in Ukraine, and the rest of the world that could use our healing prayers.
Sam Kamen, Abby Thomas, Leslie and Carl Sebastian, Jack and Bernice Sandbrand, Bob and Carolyn Johnston, Elaine Edelman, Jay and Gloria Harris, Ellen Kahn, Larry Krause, Adele Levy, Lee Levy, Herb Lubick, Mary Marshall, Esther Rosenberg, Rhonda Schwartz, Fred Valfer, Sylvia Witterspan.
Marshall Lubick, my daughter Aviva Rivka Bat Yonina, Julie Alper, Keith Hartman, Alan Kleinman, Ed Carnot, Brenda Shatskin, Barbara Huntington, Chuck Cantor, Rachel Bat Eti, my friend Shelley Rakosi. We can turn now to the blessing for healing, which is on page 253. Let's join together. Sheberach Imotenu Makor HaBracha Liavotenu. That's those with refuah, renewal of salary, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. Lovely. Okay, Marty, can you lift the Torah for us, please? It's time to put the Torah back. We will go to page 256. First, Marty will lift it for us. Bend your knees and you'll do it. There you go. Zot HaTorah. Louise. Ifnei v'nei Yisrael. If you sit there, you'll Lura b'yad mo. Give it to Louise, okay? Shaduvarim. Shalom. Ashivenu Adonai Elecha Nashua Thank you. It sounds lovely from here. I don't know what it sounds like out there. Susan Zale will honor us with the drash today.
Well, there have been 3 times today I've heard that names matter. And they do. They're important. Exodus, second book of the Torah, it's called Shemot in Hebrew, which means names. The first verse lists the names of the descendants of Jacob living in Egypt, as Mimi so eloquently read to us this morning. But none of those names are as significant as the names of God we learn in this parsha. The first prayer I was taught as a young preschooler was the Shema. And I learned that God had 2 names, Adonai, Lord, and Eloheinu, our God. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Hear, O Israel, the Lord is our God, the Lord is one. I didn't think too much about that at the time, but as I began to study Torah in earnest and learned to read and chant prayers in Hebrew, especially in the late 1990s, I discovered that God has a total of 5 names. They are El, Elohim, Yeh Asher Yeh, Tzevaot, and the unpronounceable Yud-He Vav-He, which is called the tetragram or the tetragrammaton. By the way, only the high priest was allowed to pronounce Yud-He Vav-He. Everyone else, then and now, has called God Adonai to avoid even the possibility of pronouncing the name. With the demise of the priesthood, the way to pronounce Yud-He Vav-He was lost. The name is often spelled and pronounced Yahweh or Jehovah in English. Here's what else I've learned to date. During the Bronze Age, in the time of our patriarchs, many nations in the southern Levant worshipped a variety of gods, and most recognized the god El as the head of the pantheon. We monotheistic Jews understand El as a singular or plural gender-neutral name meaning God. As a name of God, however, it is used chiefly in poetry, liturgy, and prophetic discourse, rarely in prose, and then usually with some epithet attached. Look no further than the Avot V'Imahot prayer we just chanted. Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor V'Hanorah is translated as great, mighty, and exalted God, and my favorite, El Elyon, translated as God Most High. Let's look at how the name of God changed with each of the 3 covenants. The first covenant that God made was with Noah, when he promised not to flood the earth again. That is when we learn the name of God as Elohim, translated simply as God. Interestingly, when Elohim is used as a name of God, it is both masculine and singular, whereas in general, Hebrew words ending in I am, im, are plural. In Genesis chapter 17, verse 1, God tells Abraham, and later tells Isaac and Jacob, that his name is El Shaddai, meaning God Almighty, the name most associated with the second covenant when God promised Abraham that he would be the father of a great nation. Fast forward to our parasha, Exodus chapter 1, verse 1 through chapter 6, verse 1, when God forms the third covenant, this time with Moses. God promises to redeem the Hebrews from slavery and lead them to the land flowing with milk and honey. We get a foreshadowing of the name God will reveal to Moses in chapter 3, verse 12. God refers to himself as Yeh Asher Yeh, translated as I will be. According to the text in chapter 3, verse 14, God tells Moses to say God's name is Yeh, a personal name meaning I am who I am. Or as Richard Elliott Friedman suggests, I shall be who I shall be. This imperfect verb is not limited to present or future time. Friedman further posits that the former Yeh is an expression of the first person because it is the deity's own first articulation of his identity in the world. And the second time God gives Moses his name, it's revealed in verse 15, Yud-He Vav-He. This is the deity's name in the form God tells Moses to use when asked who sent him back to Egypt. It is a verb, it is third person, it is singular, and it is masculine. The root meaning is to be. It is generally understood to be a causative form. Its tense is imperfect and cannot be limited to past, present, or future time. Its nearest translation would be, he causes to be. Regarding the masculine gender, we must acknowledge that all the signs indicate that the biblical Israel conceived of God as male. The terms for deity in the Torah are all masculine words. The first recurrence of the word Iyeh is noteworthy in chapter 4, verse 12. And now go, and Iyeh, I will be with your mouth, and I'll instruct you what you shall speak. Remember, the meaning of Iyeh is I'll be. It appears again in chapter 4, verse 15, as God responds to Moses' first 4 objections to doing as God commanded him. It is, in essence, the same. Yeah, I am. I'll be with you. Richard Elliott Friedman posed the question, who is Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh, in his commentary on Torah. The issue of Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh's becoming known, which is to become a major component of subsequent books, begins in Exodus. In Genesis, Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh is known personally to only a few individuals, but not to any nations. God's actions in the world are not identifiably God's. That is, the narrator informs the reader that it is Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh who brought the flood, but the masses of humans in the narrative are not portrayed as being aware of the source of their catastrophe. There is likewise no suggestion that the generation of the Tower of Babylon knew whose force confounded and scattered them. The same is true of the victims of the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah, as the only eyewitness turned to salt. Joseph informed Pharaoh that it is God who brought his dream, who made its interpretation known, and who was the cause of the events that it revealed. But Joseph referred to the deity only generically, as God. He never revealed to the Egyptians the name of the deity who was at work. In Exodus, however, Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh made his presence known to Israel, to Egypt, and eventually to other inhabitants of the region. Recall that Pharaoh's first words to Moses were, "Who is Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh?" I don't know Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh. That's in chapter 5, verse 2. Although Pharaoh denies knowing Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh as God, he would have recognized the name El. And by the end of the story, he knows. We recognize one more name of God, but this name never appears in the Torah. Shekhinah is the presence or manifestation of God which has descended to dwell among humanity. The later rabbis used the word when speaking of God dwelling either in the tabernacle or among the people of Israel. The root word means dwelling. Of the principal names of God, Shekhinah is the only feminine one in Hebrew grammar. Anybody questions? Thank you.
Oh, she left her references here.
Yeah, in case anybody wanted to know the names of
Yeah, because Susan cited the Torah names, and Shekhinah is a post-Torah name, right? And you have a whole list there, Hamakom, Hashem. You know, well, when we do our closing song, I'll talk about that for a minute. Okay, thank you so much. Brilliant. A great academic lesson for us all. We are coming to the end of our service, Aleinu, which may be found on page 282. Let's rise if you're able. I said. Hashem, right. HKBH. When I was in graduate school, when we studied Talmud, we talked about the HKBH. Hashem. Okay. Another poem by Zelda. Thank you, David. And if you're not familiar with her poetry, it's just gorgeous. She's a fairly modern Hebrew poet, the middle of the last century. From the Songs of Childhood. I was a butterfly, a non-doing, an impermanence, royalty. My tender years went forth in search of sweetness and struck the roots of the sea. I, father and mother, weep on the shore. Why the weeping? Why the grief? Surely the floor of the sea is a chariot to God. So as we approach the Kaddish prayer, by what name would you like to be remembered? I want Bubby. Anybody else? Okay. Yes. Thank you. Savta. I wanted to be called Savta, but my kids called me Bubby, so I love Bubby. Okay. We are on page 293. Our thoughts turn to those who have departed this earth, our own loved ones, with those whom our friends and neighbors have lost, the martyrs of our people whose graves are unmarked, and those of every race and nation whose lives have been a blessing to humanity. As we remember them, we meditate on the meaning of love and loss, of life and death. And if you are remembering someone today, please announce the name. Okay. As a community, please let's rise and recite the Mourner's Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, di'alma divrach chirutei v'yamlich malchutei. Uchayei d'chol beit Yisrael, bagala v'zman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabba Mavorach Le'olam Omei Almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shmei dekudusha b'rechu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata damiran v'yalma v'imru amen. Yehei shlomo Rabba min Shemaya V'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Thank you. Announcements, Gordon, announcements. Or who's doing the announcements? The microphone.
First of all, I'll just inform everybody that we'll be doing the Oneg in the Activity Center because it's pretty cold outside. Who knows how the weather is going to be. First of all, on behalf of the congregation, I want to thank Janice Alper, one of our resident teachers, for leading services today. Mimi Schechter for reading Torah. Susan Zale, a delightful Devar Torah. And of course, Leslie Mark, our musical accompanist. And everybody who showed up today, weather notwithstanding, thank you. Lending your voices and participating in various ways. People watching on YouTube, thank you for adding to the Kavanagh. Next week, our service leader is going to be Bert Lazaro. Linda Arbanal is going to be reading Torah, and Elisa Schuchter will be giving the Devar Torah. Thank you, Shabbat Shalom, and we'll meet outside for the Oseh Shalom Circle.
Eventually.
Yes, eventually.
This service is not over. Thank you. Okay.
Wait, there's more.
There's always more when I do it. You know that. And I think I have time. I don't think it's 12 o'clock yet. No. Okay, I know. I'm a teacher, right? Huh? Okay, please turn. I'm going to ask Elaine to come up and help me. Please turn to page 322. We're going to sing Ein Keloheinu, and I said I would comment on it. As Susan pointed out, Elohim or Eloheinu means God. It's a plural noun. But in traditional circles, we don't pronounce El, they pronounce Kel, and so they use the kuf instead. And that's why this is not a holy song, it's just a melody. So it's Ein Keloheinu. And if you look at the translation, there's none is like God. So please join us together in Ein Keloheinu.
But don't you want it a different tune?
She's good, yeah, whatever tune you've got. Didn't you rehearse it with her? Okay.
I don't know where to start, so what? Yeah, I know, but I don't know what note to start on. Could you play like the first 3 or 4 notes? Okay, thank you, that's great. Ein Keloheinu, Ein Kadonenu, Ein Kemalkeinu, Ein Kamoshienu, Micheloheinu, Michadonenu, Mikemalkeinu, Mikamoshienu, Deleloheinu, no deladonenu, no delemalkeinu, no delamoshienu, Baruch Eloheinu, Baruch Adonenu, Baruch Malkeinu, Baruch Moshienu, Eloheinu, Atohu Adonenu, Atohu Malkeinu, Atohu Moshienu.
Great. That was perfect. That was good. Okay, everybody, please rise. For those of you who are Leslie, thanks. That was good. The first verse repeats each time. Okay, it's fine. But you know what? It's fine. It was different. Marty? Where'd Marty go? Marty? Leslie, that was a really good, that was great. We did well.